Oh, and there was silence. Hold on a sec. Oh, great. Our theme song's not working.
It's okay. Post production.
Here, I'll give you the old school one. A little more professional for you. Hi, welcome to Functional Meatheads, everyone. I'm Mark DeSalvo.
And I'm Froilan Sanchez.
And I was just reading this funny article. Not funny, but did you see that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be co-starring in Captain America 3?
Who?
Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man. He's going to be co-starring in the third Captain America movie.
Where did you read this? Because you were full of information this morning about that, and I was like, well, I read that. What did I read?
It's in Variety magazine, so fairly
Reading
reputable.
about how they're gonna the third Avengers movie is gonna be not the regular Avengers. It's gonna be like off-cast, kind of outcast, and then all setting up for the fourth one. But like you said, the Civil War storyline is gonna have him die and stuff.
So the Civil War storyline is going to
Yeah.
happen in the
Spoiler.
third Captain America, and they're putting Robert Downey Jr. in. And so I thought to myself, I was like, wow, I wonder if the second Captain America, Winter Soldier, I was like, I wonder if it did that badly that they feel like they got to put Robert Downey Jr. in it. And then I looked at it, and Winter Soldier did amazing, 761 million, I think it said, and that was more than Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, well, think about it, dude. Duh. Like you read the Civil War storyline, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's Iron Man versus Captain America.
I know it's going to be great, but that's what I'm saying. It's like I didn't think that they would pull that stop out yet because I was like, how are you going to make that fit with Age of Ultron? And now the comics are going to rehash Civil War too. They're redoing that storyline.
Well, they kind of did it with. They kind of did it in the first. He's pretty much at odds with Iron Man the whole time
Oh yeah.
in the of her first Avengers movie. So I don't know. To me, it's like, I've already seen it. It's. I don't. I like the guy, but I don't agree with him being cast as Captain America. So I don't
I
know.
don't understand that.
I don't know. I just have. He was already Johnny Storm. I don't know if he can do that. I'm very much a stickler.
Oh, that's why you don't like him as a.
And I just don't see. I don't know, man. Like, he's a great actor. I like him. I've seen him do stuff that I was like, "Whoa, you're a good actor." So I don't know. And there's something going on with his nose. I think he did have a nose job.
You were weird, man. I think he's a great Captain America.
Really? No. John Cena would have been awesome.
Are you fucking kidding me?
He would have been awesome. He
You would
looks like
not.
Captain America. He looks like Captain America. That or Howie Long. If Howie Long hadn't gotten too old.
Well, anyway, we are a health show, and I just wanted. I found it funny that I thought that that was a last breath of air, gasp for air, of putting Robert Downey Jr. in that. But then I was wrong. I was like, oh wow, they're actually doing it out of artistic integrity.
Yeah, I think it fits. And they don't really think about it. They don't really. You said that they went for this really fast, but Robert Downey Jr. is not going to be there forever. Not because he's getting older, but I think he's going to be like, all right, I'm done with this.
Well, he's been quite the opposite. He keeps saying, "I want to be in it. I want to be in it," because his contract apparently had been very vague, his situation, and he
Yeah.
kept saying public. He kept using media to be like, "Hey, I want to do this. I want to do this."
Well, remember Iron Man 3, I don't know what they're going to do. But remember, he was also saying this right when his other movie is just coming out, too.
Right, right. People probably asking him about it on his press tours.
Yeah, you never know. But I mean, he's a good guy. I'm not going to say he's a bad guy. I like him. Everything I've read about him is good. He's a really super intelligent guy.
Oh yeah, he is. He is, and he's
I
lived.
just,
He's been through some shit. You know what I mean?
that's right. People like him, I give 10 times more respect than the guy who just did what he was supposed to. This guy just said, all right, balls to the wall. I'm gonna go to the edge of death and see what happens. Not on purpose. His life just flowed that way, and then I guess he got it all together. I hear his wife is a really big influence on him, though. She's the one that's like focused. She's got him focused.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. The way he talks about her, you could see it, and they work together. I think this movie they worked together on.
Yeah, she's the main producer on it or something like that. So
Yeah.
I don't mind. He's a good dude. I like him a lot. I'm glad he is one of my favorite movies. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Awesome movie. Everybody should rent that.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but I've heard great things.
It's like lethal. It's better than any of the Lethal Weapons. It's hilarious. They're not cops, but it's like a hilarious buddy movie. It's pretty funny.
Good times, good
Yeah.
times.
So, anyways, how's everything with you? How's life going? How's your project going? How's your lifestyle going?
Well, we were just talking before the show. Now that I'm kind of into then this will be this is leads us into our projects. I've been uh, now a week into doing this physical therapy program to get me back from this injury, this rib injury that I've talked about on the past like four podcasts, and it's going really well. And it's funny because we talked last week about how you sort of use movement as medicine. Like there's always that fine line of rest versus certain like bits of just movement being necessary to heal. And this is kind of that because the physical therapist told me right up front. He said there's going to be times where this is going to bother you and it's going to hurt you. And he's like, I want you to understand why it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you because it's going to be tugging right at the iliocostalis and all of those spinal erector muscles, and those muscles attach on the ribs. And one of the because the iliocostalis is kind of in three parts, and one of the parts is attaching to your rib. And so when I really get that lit up, I'll feel it on my ribs. It'll feel almost like that pain, but then it subsides pretty quickly. And what you're left with now after four workouts or whatever it's been that I've done, um, you're left with kind of that feeling of activation, and it's there. It's like I'm kind of training a muscle that was an infant, and like it's like almost something stopped developing in me, or I shut it off, or whatever, because you know it takes a lot to get that muscle primed and warmed up, and for me to get it activated in the exercises that I want to get it activated in.
Uh-huh.
And then it's funny because for an hour or two after, it'll feel great. It'll feel limber, activated, taut, everything. But then a couple hours later, it starts to subside and kind of you lose that feeling, and you're more susceptible to the bad posture, the internal rotation, the things that cause pain. So it's really interesting to train a muscle from zero, like catching it up to the rest of my 20-something-year-old body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like this muscle never developed before. But we know that's not true. Basically what happened is just years of hockey and hunching over a stick, and then sitting as a teenager playing video games and stuff. And it was just it was one thing that I was kind of missed on my journey to where I am today.
I always wonder, like, is that what you're experiencing, or are you just learning the stages of mindfulness about, like, oh crap, I know how to activate this now. It's almost the same thing, but you're on the journey of like, ah, shoot. So you learn a lot of things. You learn about the rib injury. You learn about healing rib injury. You learned about weakness, the injury exposed or made these weaknesses more prevalent. So you learned a bunch of stuff. So now you have all this awareness about something you never had to think about. It's kind of like, I don't care about politics or anything, but let's say there's a war that occurs, and then I read an article about it, and I'm like, okay, so now it's in my head. Now I know I have a Lego piece that rolls somewhere. You know what I mean? So
Right.
think of it with your body. Like, you have you have a way deeper understanding about the iliocostalis now, or any back muscle now, just because of this injury. So now you have this puzzle piece it was there. It's just now you know more about it. You know about it 3D. Left, right, up, down, inside out. You know a lot more.
I
And so
think
is that your body trying to figure out where it fits, and then like, okay, I got this now.
I think it's both. I think you get both of those things. The reason I say both is because I think you can't argue with anatomy that the difference between that and like Ebola and wars in Africa is that uh, it was very clear that my psoas was doing work that needed to be supplemented by the spinal erectors. You know what I mean? Like that's an imbalance.
Well, I still don't get this. So I guess what he was saying about the psoas is, if the psoas was so dominant, that means that if the psoas is dominant, it just automatically means that the opposite of it, which is the spinal erectors, are weak, right? That's basically what he was saying, I think.
Yeah, weaker or untapped or whatever. But there might have been other muscles in addition to the psoas, but something was working overtime, basically.
I wonder. That's huge because now I wonder if all my clients with tight hips or psoas issues from sitting are all their. You see their back all jacked up. So now it's interesting. Like I'm gonna definitely keep that in mind because I see weak T spines all day long with just bent over dumbbell rows. You know, you can see when it starts getting tired. You see all this compensation. I'm like, okay, this is not good. But
Yeah,
I
I
know I'll keep doing exercises for the T spine, like a lot of the Paul Check stuff, because it works really, really well.
right.
But the new stuff that you introduced is definitely going into my toolbox.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, kind of to the other point too, that you it's really made me get that much tighter with my anatomy on the whole body. I mean, not only am I doing that for additional certifications I'm getting, but it's made me realize that that's really what separates us and physical therapists.
Who told you the difference between an 85 to $100 trainer and a $200 trainer is anatomy.
Right, and that's why, like I said
And,
to you, that
yeah,
there's two things. You asked if it was mindfulness or if it was the actual functional deficiencies. I say both because I say that anatomically something wasn't happening with me, but the other half of it is that it takes being mindful and learning to know, and that's where your knowledge of anatomy comes in.
and then that's where a $200 trainer can say, look, you're not using this muscle. This is how you use it, and then now you're like, boom. So technically, like
Which
you're
is
just
exactly what I
they
did.
have muscles on their body. Like I was having, like we talked about last time, I was having issues with my traps, and I said, okay, let me follow a muscle activation technique. I'm gonna activate my rhomboids, all my and my lats and some other stuff. So I looked up, did some exercises, and then as soon as I started doing that, now for the first time ever, I really feel my lats when I do pull-ups. So it was all my life I was doing pull. I felt like I was doing them with a shoulder. Like I couldn't explain it. But now that I do those activation for my lower rhomboids and my lats, I started feeling like, wow, I'm actually using my pull up, my lats in a better way. It's just a small little muscle that I was using. So it's very interesting how those things work. Very interesting. But I'm glad you're making progress on your ribs. It sounds like everything's good just by correcting a postural deficiency, which is good. Like this is the things that this is what makes getting injured worth it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's difficult. Like I'm making a huge progress, but like you said, when you get to the end of those reps, those sets, you start to go. Like your form starts to go, and that's when it becomes so important to get it right.
Well, that's when working out really begins. That's why trainers need to be tough. Not tough, but you need to be observant and watch your client and say, okay, are they faking it? Because you're not working out the first 6 reps. You're working out the last 4.
Right, exactly. No, that's a
That's
great point.
a
That's a very good point.
general statement, but you know what I mean. Like sometimes it's just the last 2 reps, but they have to be 2 quality reps.
Right. And that's why exactly. And like today, I'm deadlifting and I get to the end, like I have to hit 15 no matter what. But I'm on like 12 and I can feel it going and I had to reset because there's no point in me powering through those three,
Yeah,
which I knew
that
I could.
will not
But
do the workout.
yeah, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
what do you got for us, Froy?
On my end, I've been since I've been injured and I'm not really doing any lower body. I just decided to work on postural stuff. So I started just doing the Joe DeFranco shoulders every day, Monday through Friday, and I just feel stronger. I feel better posture. My meditation's better because my T spine's not all trying to get all like relaxed and everything. I feel less tension in my T spine by just correcting my shoulder posture and muscles. Um,
Nice.
and where it used to be a bitch, I hated doing it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. It sucks, like shoulders up. Now because I've gotten. It's kind of like how I used to complain about people that I know that hated running. But I go, you know what? Running just sucks until you get in shape. Once you get in shape, running's actually cool because you can run 3 miles and it doesn't mean anything because you're in shape.
Right.
So got that. I did that with my shoulders, and now I'm like, okay, all my clients are doing shoulders every day. All my clients who sit at a desk are doing shoulders because it really matters. And then as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, I'm like, well, why do I have to do the thumbs this way? Like, what's the deal with the thumbs? And then it hit me. I'm like, okay,
The
the thumb,
rotation.
the thumbs have to be this way so that I don't cheat. Because if I turn my thumbs inward faster earlier, then all I'm doing is giving myself internal rotation to get my my hands behind my
Exactly.
back.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I was like, but I mean, it's obvious to some people, but I was like, I'm thinking about it, going, well, why do I have to do this? And then it was a part of that questioning my thumbs and then seeing my clients cheat when they were doing it, and I'm like, oh, it was like a light bulb. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Oh yeah, it's
I
huge.
was,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, it was great, and it's such a small little detail that you have to teach them. Like the thumbs are important because a lot of people want to give up on the thumbs. They're like, no, thumbs are important because it helps me see and it helps you realize why the thumbs have to be there. So
And the quicker they mess up the thumbs too is usually the worse they are off when it comes to the internal rotation, you know?
yeah, it's good. Like again, this is like my small thing. Like an injury taught me, like, oh, okay, I got to learn my postural stuff, and then obviously what you've been talking about, I'm like, okay, let me see if my upper back is where I need it to be, and obviously it wasn't. So
Yeah, I mean that's
that's
it's
it.
that's a cool realization. You know, I would recommend checking out is on the Built to Last program, DeFranco's new one.
Mhm.
He in the ebook it links to a YouTube video of his upper body foam rolling warm up.
Yeah.
It's good. Do it. I don't know if you did it. I like it.
I looked at it and I was like, it's not as convenient as the other.
It's not convenient, but I've been doing it before every physical therapy session, like
Nice.
to warm up my body, and it's good because it's to me it's concise. It's 3 or 4 moves on each side. You can do it in 8 minutes, and it's a very effective warm up. You know, it's I actually like it a lot. I think you can even just if you just search this on YouTube, the Built for Last warm up, you'll be
I've
able to
seen it.
find
I've
it.
seen it before. The Built to Last.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm a fan. I like it.
I'm a big fan. Cool story, bro.
Cool story, Hansel.
No, that's it. That's pretty much it. But
Good. Good.
speaking of which, though, the clothes that I wear make it easier for me to work out.
Yeah, Froy and I were, Froy and I always talk about, and this has, in the past, has had very little to do with health and whatever, but, the mind and body are connected in such a huge way that I guess this is why it interests Froy and I. But, he would make comments of, uh, you know, I don't care how I look about this, or why you called me a dandy one time or something,
Clothes
and I
horse.
always. And as I've
Clothes
gotten
horse.
older, I've always questioned and wondered to myself why, uh, looking sharp or the clothing you wear matters to the way you feel. And I've meditated on this a lot because, I think there's levels of it. I think on a superficial level, there's the exact superficial thing that you or anyone else will think of when you talk about I need to have this label, I need to have this because it puts me into the group, it doesn't make me stand out, or coincidentally maybe you want to stand out. I think there's that superficial layer, but once you get beyond that, there is a certain presentation uh, element or an element that sort of almost becomes very symbiotic between the person and what they're wearing. And I came across this article in the Atlantic, and if you just search it, it's called "The Psychology of Lululemon: How Fashion Affects Fitness," and it gets into this phenomenon a little bit. And I sent it to Froy because he is a frequent Lululemon wearer, and and it's a topic that's right up our alley. And the science of and the science and mind science, or maybe the mind woo woo science of wearing clothes. So, what say you?
What did you think journalistically about the article? Because these are the kind of articles that I like. I love the first 3 quarters of it, and then it just turns to crap. And I was like,
Yeah, I read it in detail a couple days ago, so I don't. It's not super fresh
I
in
didn't
my
get
head.
the part where she starts like, okay, and then at the end, like she gives you all the facts, all the data, all the good stuff, and then at the end, so I went to the thing and I bought some new workout clothes, and I texted my boyfriend a selfie, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, you know what bothered me
Is
is
that new
when
journalism though? Is that like that? You would never see that in the New York Times. You know what I mean? Or
no, but the Atlantic is different than the New York Times, and
different. Journalism is like what, bloggy slash
Yeah,
info?
it's well, it's yeah, it's rooted a lot more in conversational, bloggy, prose, basically. You know.
Yeah, that threw
Uh,
me. Like, I don't want to be reminded that the article's being written by a 24-year-old
Yeah,
girl.
yeah, exactly. See, you should that the best authors can kind of distance themselves in these types of articles.
Yeah,
I
I think
mean,
that this girls, the TV show Girls, like the type of the type of media that's out is all about. It's all about information, but there's such a big thing about branding now, like millennials and branding and branding and branding and branding and branding. What's your brand? This is brand. What's your brand?
I know it makes me sick. I can't
Yeah,
stand
like I don't think people cannot. They cannot do that impartial, but only because it seems so cold. I don't know. It was slightly confusing. I guess I'm being a little crotchety about it. I don't mind it. It's just I'm just I'm a little older, so I feel like when I read something like that, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like a young person telling me, um, her this experience with working out, and then like her I guess that this is like her I don't want to say ignorance, just her naivete about working out and like how she thought about it, how she tried a bunch of different things, and I'm just like, who are you talking about? Like, she didn't get into the part of like, okay, so you researched the hell out of this for an article, clothing, but you didn't really like. Did you go to a trainer? Did you talk to your gym people? Did you kind of figure out like, hey, you don't have to run if you don't like running. Find something you like to do, or find out why you're having such a hard time with running. Are you getting injured with running is different than I just don't like running. Well, then you just have to come up with a plan to get in better shape so that you're not dying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
I was just I was like, okay, I wanted something, I guess, but that comes from us being professionals, and I'm like, well, what is he talking about?
well, I think it goes, yeah, I that too, and I think it also goes back to the branding, point you made because not only I think sometimes the reason people don't ask the question or make people ask the questions that we ask, which is, what do you like to do? What do you think you want to do? It's not really going to benefit. I'm not like singling out yoga studios, for instance, but if you had a bunch of clients at your yoga studio, and someone's like, I don't really like yoga, well,
Well,
you're not going to ask them like, well, what do you like to do? Or you might not even ask, start that conversation because they're your client. You just want to try to keep them. Like, this is obviously a naive, poor example, but
yeah,
I
no, I
don't
know.
know. Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of cross. There's
Yeah.
not going to be a lot of cross referencing. Like, oh, you don't like CrossFit? Maybe you should try this. But what I chose to focus on with this article, I kind of think I think what happens to me a lot when once I get to the what you were just talking about, the more um, personal aspects, the personal essay aspects,
Yeah.
I just zone out. Basically, like you said, the beginning of the article was really interesting because what really stuck with me and the whole reason I sent it to you in the first place is I think that first half of the article really touched on what you and I were have kind of mused about for the past few years, which is like what do clothes do to people? Like why do you like to get certain things? And it's basically the question she poses and this study that was done in 2012 posed is what does the clothing you wear influence your behavior or what you do or your tendencies or how you feel about yourself? And this study basically said yes, that basically you're going to be more likely if you're like a chronic gym clothes wearer, you're going to be more likely to fancy yourself athletic, maybe push yourself to go to the gym or do whatever it is that you
Yeah.
that you know is appropriate with the way you're dressed. Versus same thing with the suit. They said the thing with like people wearing suits uh, might have felt a little more powerful. Some were even more likely to do certain good deeds or whatever, because they just felt like a superhero. And I thought that was interesting, and that was what I chose to take from this article. I kind of zoned out on the rest of it, to be
Oh, it's
honest
a
with
good article. I just wanted to give like a broader perspective on when I read things, why I like half of it. I don't really deem like, okay, this is interesting. Like, interesting, or is she really interested in this, or how far did she take it? But it
Right.
seemed very relevant for her, probably who she was, her age, etc., etc. So I'm fine with it. I didn't really have a problem with it. I love, I do that. I mean, who doesn't? Like, okay, at times in my life when I've been out of shape or I had stuff to get stuck on, like I'll go buy a new pair of running shoes, or I'll go buy a new workout something, just to kind of keep everything fresh. Um, but yeah, I totally understand. I totally see it, and I think it's like a lot of things. It made me think of a bunch of stuff that kind of relevant in today's society, like cosplay. Cosplay is huge now. Cosplay is way huger than it was 10 years ago. People love this stuff.
Right. And it's
So
not so esoteric and nerdy either.
no, it's pretty much par for the course. If you go to any Comic Con now, there's a lot more people dressed up than not dressed. Before it used to be very fringe. Like you would go, a couple people would be dressed up and they'd be super popular. Now I think people are like, you know what? It's not my thing, but I'm gonna do it. Like even I, after like 20 years of going to Comic Cons, even I would be like, okay, I might dress up next year.
Right.
And that's not an age thing. That's more like okay, it's kind of cool now. I'm just gonna blend in. Like it's almost like this is the standard. This is the uniform to wear to a con.
Yeah, and that's really interesting that it it's kind of gotten to there, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. Like, what does that say? I've always noticed how people are like, this is something I really like. I want to spend time doing it. It's like a manifestation or a meditation on something you really, really enjoy doing, which I'm like, that's cool. That's actually cool because you're making the costume yourself. There's active creativity going on, and it's kind of cool. So, I mean, but I've been like that, and I'm sure you've been like that. You want to feel good about yourself. I'm going to buy a new T-shirt or a new something. Funny
Yeah.
thing is, I'm like a Steve Jobs, man. If I could wear a black V-neck every day, I'm sure every time you've seen me on Saturday, I have a black V-neck or some sort of V-neck on, T-shirt.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
I feel the most comfortable in that and cargo shorts because I feel like I can carry everything in there. And even though cargo shorts are getting a bad rap nowadays,
Yeah, they have been for a few years. I
I'm
mean,
like
yeah.
probably not the most perfect thing ever.
Yeah, whatever, old man.
No,
Uh,
cargo pants are the shiz, man. They're the
I
sh-
mean, I wore them all growing up. The thing is that I like to feel as light as possible, so I like shorts that are a little more streamlined personally, which is why you always see me in gym shorts and a t-shirt or something something sleek. So maybe like one of Nike's like real light dry fit shirts or something. I like as little as possible. Like even when it's cold, I'll wear as little as possible still. I don't like layers. It's just how I am. But
one of the things of like why I don't really care about clothes, I just don't want them to be like ripped or stained or smelly. Like, I think most people care more about their clothes than they do their health. And once I see that, I'm like, invalid. This is invalid. Like I cannot respect somebody when that happens.
yeah, and I get where you're coming from there. I mean,
And I don't mean that I'm not coming from an elitist. I have from far the perfect body, but I mean just somebody who's like I care more about the clothes and the time I put into the clothes and the shopping of the clothes and the dyeing of my hair and the tanning and the everything that's not like real stuff. I just can't get that disconnect. I'm like, wow, why do you have $700 pair of boots
right.
and heels are broken? Like your arches are broken. Like why? That's such a and this is a personal thing for me. It's such a big disconnect
Well, I
for
think what
me.
you're getting at here, and this is how I always look at it, is there is a fine balance, a fine line between having to do all that stuff. So having to have perfect clothes, perfect makeup, perfect tan, perfect whatever, just to get yourself out and feeling like minimal baseline. And there's a difference between that and those same things kind of making you operate optimally. Like you can go too far in one direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like in other words, if you have to use clothes and all these other accessories as a means to getting to a baseline, like that's where you're clearly missing your health from some perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have it in line, that if you have your health at that baseline, these things can be used to enhance in a way or project what you want to project, you know? Um, it's
Yeah,
interesting because like I do like nice things, but I have a bit of a minimalist in me, but I'm also not a true minimalist by any stretch of the imagination. Um, and I just I'm somebody who I definitely this study resonated with me because I've there's been times in my life where things were really hard and I really began to identify with whatever it was that I wanted to identify with, and that was when clothing and stuff became tribal in a way. Like I would always wear like early on, like early on when I was training and probably even studying to be a trainer or whatever. Uh, I would go out of my way, not necessarily go out of my way, but I would take pride in what I wore. I took pride in the fact that I was wearing the gym shorts, the sneakers, and the shirt, but whatever. But it was, clean, whatever. But that that said to the world, I was like, oh, this guy's either working out or is working people out or whatever. And like I took a lot of comfort in being identified that way. It was, it was being a little younger, more naive, like kind of looking for that type of uh, label to kind of do certain work for me. And now, as I've gotten older and have gotten away from that and have gotten into different experiences, it's different now. It's I've had to wear normal clothes and then I can wear whatever I want, whatever it is. And I'm always now gravitating back towards, and I'm always most comfortable when I'm wearing the gym shorts or the pants or anything physical, basically.
we talked about this. Like I became a trainer because I wanted to be something comfortable, wanted to wear something comfortable, but I also mostly wanted to have a place where I could work on myself for free. And most of the time when I wasn't training, I was on the foam roller or learning something about my body or learning something. Why can't I do a squat? Like I was so curious about why my body worked for 30 years a certain way and why it broke and what I needed to do to get it back. You know.
Right.
So clothing was, I think trainers especially, it's very important to have nice, clean. I don't want to say expensive because it doesn't have to be expensive because the knowledge doesn't matter, but you have to look like you're not a bum. You know what I mean? And or you have to look the part. And if you're helping people be healthy, you don't have to be shredded or buff. You don't have to be that, but you have to be healthy. Um, eat healthy.
Right.
Compliment. She's like, yeah, my last trainer. Maybe I talked about it before, but she's like, my last trainer was shredded, ripped, buff, big, whatever you want to call it. But he was never happy. He was just not happy because he's like he wouldn't eat carbs or something like always something. His mood was off all the time, and I'm like, she's like, you're not as big or anything like that, and I never take that as a insult. She's like, but you're vibrant. You have energy. You're alive. Like I talk about bad food all the time because I do it once a week, once or twice a week. I don't forget that I like cheeseburgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like I enjoy a good cheeseburger, but I don't do a cheeseburger every day.
Right.
So I'm like, that's a good compliment, thank you, because I strive to eat during the week or when I need to eat clean, I eat it, and I try to tell people, look, if you eat clean, you're gonna feel really, really good. If you feel really, really good, you're never gonna be tired. You don't need coffee. You don't go through those crazy swings in the middle of the day. You're gonna have all this energy, and I'm trying to prove it to you because you see me eating the eggs, you see me eating my vegetables, you see me eating the chicken. You don't. I act a certain way. Most people at 3 o'clock are like, I'm done, dead to the world, and then they have their coffee and they're back up again.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
I
so it's a very interesting. I was very complimented because I'm like, I don't care about being big. I care about, does my body work? Yes. If I needed to deadlift twice my body weight, could I get myself there because everything works? Yes. I want to be, I don't want there to be anything I want to do physically. I don't want there to be a real health reason that I can't do it.
Right.
I want to run a marathon in 6 months. I'm going to train for marathon. So far, maybe the hamstring might bother me a little bit, but no. If I want to play soccer on Sundays once a week, okay. But now I learned that I got to put sprinting in another day of the week because obviously sprinting one day a week is not going to cut it for somebody who wants to perform at a high level when they're playing, you know. So I kind of learned that lesson, you know. So I got to be honest with myself and go from there.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it all kind of works out really, really well because I feel like the clothes inside the body are more important, but I do feel really important. Like I don't wear that synthetic stuff anymore. Whenever I used to wear it, it never felt right. Like remember the shiny Nike stuff, you know,
Yeah.
the Under Armour stuff, the what was the other one that used to have a lot of shiny stuff? Under Armour, Nike. Anyways, the sweat wicking stuff, I hate that stuff. I only wear it as underwear just because it's good support and it doesn't smell like all that has all that good stuff. But I can't stand wearing it. I love cotton. Give me cotton. Give me a soft cotton shirt, and I'm the happiest man alive.
Yeah, see, I'm with you on that, but I like how Nike and Lululemon too have kind of they've bridged the gap a little bit. Like it's a very cotton feeling synthetic, so it lasts a lot longer. I do like that stuff.
I just find that it makes even because it wicks the sweat out, but it makes me smell more. Not me, but because I don't eat bad anymore. But if you're taking all the sweat out and you don't eat good, it's all gonna come out as funk.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's
I don't
funny
want.
how like once you realize that how you kind of you can peg the people who are just really unhealthy just by like this the
Oh,
stench. They stand out to you more than anyone.
it's a bad tool. Don't pick it up because no now because I know so now because I know so much about probiotics and what's going on in the gut and the mouth, everything. And if somebody comes close to me and I smell their bad breath, all I'm thinking is like, wow, you really need a probiotic. You need some charcoal and you need a probiotic. You need to drink more water. Like what? I just think of bugs in their stomach. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
Or
I
or sweat. I'm like, it's like I'm a serial killer now. I'm like Hannibal Lecter. In the TV show, he can smell. He has such a good sense of smell. He can smell if you have cancer, if you're dying of cancer.
right. Well,
Like he's crazy. Anyways, go ahead.
I think though that you kind of touched you before you went into that little that little wormhole, rabbit
Yeah,
hole. You kind of touched on what it is though, is that yeah, what's going on the inside is more important, but whatever's going on in the inside is projected to the outside, and you are very much a reflection. You can
yeah,
be a very much a reflection on what's on the inside, uh, just by what you choose to wear. You know.
yeah. Don't get me wrong. If what's on the outside will help you fix what's on the inside, I'm cool with that. You know, what
Right.
I that blind disconnect of somebody who's completely. I'm not gonna say overweight because that's not fair. I'm gonna say whenever I look at somebody that's overweight now, all I think of is oh they're out of balance. Something's out of balance. Whether it's a hormone, chemical, bacteria, I'm like something's out of balance here. Whether it's the food, I just keep thinking oh something's out of balance here. I need to fix that or something needs to be fixed. But when they kind of just keep going through life and don't really, um, you're right.
Yeah. No, I'm here. You lost your train of thought.
Yeah, no, I was just making sure you're okay.
No, no,
Um,
I'm here. I was listening to you.
oh, when I get lost on when I start thinking of, I see that unbalance and I'm like, okay, you're out of balance. I never judge weight, I never judge muscles, I never judge anything. I just judge balance, yin yang ratios. I'm like, okay, something's off. Your knee hurts. Okay, I'm thinking, okay, your knee is out of balance with something.
Right.
Uh, I try to balance the musculature out, flexibility, mobility, etc. So for a person to deny that to themselves is kind of a little tough for me. And I understand we all have our psychological issues and daily things that we're going through. Um, but I think if you can come to that realization that hey, something's out of balance, and that was another thing I wanted to talk about is that the dangers of that is that nowadays in society we we symbolize things, we attach things to them. Perfect example is coffee. We attach coffee with energy, right?
Right.
That's a weird one, but that's a true one. Um, we attach like Lululemon is big on yoga, so people think they have inner peace just by buying their products. You know,
Right.
like I've reached nirvana not because I've meditated for 40 years and done yoga every day. I've reached nirvana because I bought this product. People really believe that, and they think that there's some level of inner peace because they buy $100 pair of shorts.
Right.
And I know it sounds like I'm making a joke, but that's I guarantee you there's some people that really, really believe that.
And that was cultivated in the marketing rooms of these
Yeah,
companies too.
and I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant on their part, but I think it's I don't know. I think it's very much on their end to do that, but I think people to buy it almost makes something. I just think it's very weird for them people to go in there. Okay, I'm gonna buy a pair of shorts from Lululemon. This doesn't mean that I'm healthy. You know what I mean? It just means that I'm buying up. For me, they last a long time. You can take care of them, and they're really good for flexibility, like moving around, mobility, etc., etc. So I think it's a good product. So I don't sweat it, but I don't. I'm not fooling myself that I can do this and do that with this. You know, it's almost like a little kid buying Air Jordans because he thinks he can dunk.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah,
taken,
that's exactly what it is though.
well, they've taken that and that's actually something that's kind of pure and cute and like innocent and naive and everything. They've taken that and like bastardized it, you know, to the point where you have inner peace if you do this, or oh, like so many people think it's normal to be tired at 3 o'clock where you want to fall asleep and crash. It is for a little bit, but not to the point where you need 2 cups of coffee. So then becomes Red Bull, Red Bull, Red Bull, Red Bull. I'm tired, Red Bull, Red Bull, Red Bull. You know,
Right. Right.
it becomes this weird thing where you're outsourcing your energy because it's the easiest route. My point is, don't take the easiest route and buy the form-fitting Spanx or something. Figure out, well, what look do I want my body to have? Okay, do I need to? Why do I? I need to figure this out. So I
Yeah.
would like there to be a little. I don't mind this. I love the topic, but I just want there to be a little bit of mindfulness about it.
Totally. I
Yeah, and
mean,
that's
well,
where I was.
that's the key to life, you know.
No, I just wish that the writer would have been a little bit more okay. This is good on the surface, but what's the darker side to all this? Because I think that's where the
Oh, so this is where your problem was. Yeah, I agree with you there.
yeah, because I really think it was good surface, and then I'm like, it was really too light for me, and I didn't mind it. Actually liked it. I just wish it would have been a little bit. It would have been a little bit deeper, you know. But who knows? It is what it is.
Yeah, on a journalistic level, though, I tend to not like articles that the copywriter or the headline writer takes out what they. I mean, this is obviously what you're supposed to do with headlines, but the headline almost has very little to do with the article. Like, in other words, the article could have just been called "How Fashion Affects Fitness." They put the psychology of Lululemon in there when it really wasn't all that relevant to the article. It was just that would get more clicks, you know?
Yeah, it's a little sensational, but I think they're gonna get those people to read it. It's interesting. I just think that these, like you and I believe, like we do the podcast because we want to cover topics, but we also want them to be a gateway for people to be like, okay, I really just want to plant seeds in people's head in a way, and it doesn't have to be exactly what I say. It just has to be something where they started thinking on their own about, oh, I'm gonna go buy some clothes this weekend to work out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Then you're gonna, right as they're in the rack to buy the clothes, they're like, well, what are my goals? Why am I buying this stuff? I want them to look into the clothes as a mirror to the real thing, you know?
Mhm.
So is it like so a client comes to you and says, I need to fit into these jeans? Is the journey really about you fitting into these jeans, or is the journey way deeper than you fitting into these jeans that you used to fit into? It's
Right.
actually way deeper. It's about you going, okay, how did I get here?
You know, I think too, I think you might have lagged out here for a sec, so I'm sorry if I'm talking over you. I think you really did lag out there. Did we lose Froy here? I think we might have lost Froy. Well,
We'll be right back.